Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about spell totems and everything that changed in this patch. If you're out of the loop of spell totems and you're interested in possibly league starting at this patch, which I most likely will after seeing all the changes, look no further. Spell totem is a meta skill that got revealed last patch to a lot of criticism, let's put it mildly. While spell totems seem interesting, you can put any spell you want in it and the totem casts it. It also comes with a charge cost, meaning you either have to expend 3 power charges or 3 endurance charges for something that is usually being spammed, has to be repositioned and whatnot. It was clunk city to say the least. Now, I did actually end up playing it last league in the second wind league, around about 1 month into the league, and it was fine. I had a lot of fun with it, but that was only because of a certain interaction. The Red Flare Conduit basically had a mod that gave you charges passively. If you haven't gained the power charge recently, you convert that with resonance into endurance charges, so you never have gotten a power charge recently, and you just get infinite charges and you don't have to do anything for it. It was still clunky because you can only put down a totem every second or so with some extra help from some outside sources, but in general, it was fine. Now, however, we got an Ancestral Bond change and another huge quality of life change. Let's go over it. Now, first, the Ancestral Bond change as of the patch notes. Ancestral Bond right now is utter dog shit. It says unlimited number of summoned totems. Totems reserve 75 spirit each. After the changes, this is what it will do now. It still has the 75 spirit reservation per totem. It only doubles your maximum totems, which is totally fine. It is about the same as the unlimited amount of totems. And on top of that, you're getting 2 more things. The first one is no charges needed whatsoever, freeing up your body armor slot, making it so you don't have to think about it at all anymore. And on top of that, also no cost. Now, I want to point this out. It says not no mana cost. It says no cost, which could make this quite interesting. The no mana cost is interesting because of Archmage, for example. That is also considered a cost. But on top of that, it could be interesting for a life stacker. For example, Wrathpith Globe, where you never have to really think about your life recovery too much. Now, that in and of itself already makes it huge. You don't have to worry about mana. You don't have to worry about charges. Nothing. You can just put down a ton of totems. You only have to worry about spirit, which we'll go over more in this video. The second huge change is spell totems can now be used while moving. Yeah, I mean, we've never really had this before, I think, where a skill went from having to be placed when standing still to being able to move, but everybody who has played both knows how big of a difference this will make in terms of quality of life and clear speed. Now, to put this change into perspective, I wrote down some things you need to know about Spell Totem if you've never played it before, some of them more hidden than others. The first one is if you go to the POEDB and you've never played Spell Totem before, you might not be aware, but it scales its maximum totems already with level. But not just to +2, it actually has a it has a little bit more of a secretive +3 at level 23, which means it does not have any elemental tag, so you can't get +2 levels, but it does have the spell tag, meaning that if you get +3 to spells anywhere or +2 and then have a corrupted one on 21, you will get 3 maximum totems, which means that with the doubles totem maximum from Ancestral Bond, you will get up to 6. I put down the breakpoints here as well. 2 maximum totems at level 14, which is requirement 58. And then 3 maximum totems at level 23, right at the very end at level 90. Now, the reason I'm putting this out is Spirit will be the cap, not maximum totems. So stuff like Soul Mantle, which just got reworked, is an uninformed decision. This item doesn't really fit. It is very clear what they tried to do here. Soul Mantle is a unique body armor that gives you +1 maximum totems. Here it is once again in its full garbage glory. You have this +1 max number of summoned totems, and you clearly can see what they wanted to do with this change. Instead, it now grants 75 to Spirit, which is fine, but you have to understand if you're Ancestral Bond, this +1 doesn't really mean anything because all it does is get you from 6 to 8 totems, which you still need to spend the spirit for, which you simply will not have that much spirit realistically, or even if you do, it is not even worth the investment because you still have to put more totems down, and then also going from 6 to 8 is not as big of a damage increase as, for example, going from 4 to 6. You can do some stuff with the extra curse when totems die. There is, some application here with Warding Fetish, get some increased damage, but then you have to solve for reduced effect of curses, and you're also losing your body armor slot, which, if you know anything about this game, is insane. And this also means that the Oracle node right here, which is Unarmed Hardwood, is just not very good because just for the bottom part, my spell domes last patch weren't really dying that much, and if they are, you can resummon them really quickly. but this is something that we'll have to see. I still think Oracle is extremely good and is one of the ones, one of the ascendancies that I'm going to look at, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. So this is kind of it. So from this, we can glean Spirit is going to be the big threshold. Now, before we even get into the Spirit sources, we have to talk about the cost on Ancestral Bond, because I've tried this in game on this character right here. It says it reserves 75 Spirit each. Now, if you go to Spell Totem, you will see that it has the meta tag. And what that means is the Ancestral Bond reservation actually works with stuff like efficient inscriptions. So for example, you can see I have it right here, and it says reservation 63 Spirit, not 75. This also means that one interesting ascendancy is the Invoker, which gives you another 50% increased reservation efficiency. If I put that on, the cost goes from 63 to 44 Spirit per totem, which is a big deal, as you can see right here. They stack additively. With that in mind though, how can you get Spirit? The most obvious one is a Scepter. And while Scepters don't have too many good offensive rolls, they can still have mana up to like 200 with a hybrid roll, and they will give you over 200 Spirit. You will have to sacrifice your focus for it, but you can get some decent mods off of it. And also remember that you can get stuff like a Malice up here, or which gives you a lot of base crit, or you can get stuff like a Purity and solve some of your resistances. So while this is a big opportunity cost, it's not as bad as some people think. The efficient is inscription notable I already talked about. So this is the monk notable right here. If you're on an oracle, you'll probably have to anoint it because you're not going to get there, which is fine. It's semi-expensive, sure, but there's only one expensive, what is it called, emotion here. Other than that, you can use any ascendancy that gives you Spirit. Now, the most obvious one, once again, is Soul Springs Eternal, which indirectly brings down your cost of reserving, and then also Lead Me Through Grace, which gives you around 100 to 120 Spirit, but it also makes it so you cannot get Spirit anywhere, so that removes the ability to use a Scepter, which is rough to say the least. Another Spirit ascendancy is the Druid, especially early on. If I was going to start as an Oracle and I want to play Spell Totems early, I would just go Druid and respec into Oracle later, because you get that 40 Spirit for each of your empty charm slots, and you can activate this as soon as the end of Act 2, once you have the Valley of the Titan, and then you get an implicit on your belt for +2 charms. And then we also have the Infernalist, which has the node right here, 1 maximum Spirit per 25 max life. So already if you just had 2,500 life, you would already be sitting at +100 Spirit. It does reserve some of your life though, which does maybe open up some sort of low life opportunities. But yeah, we'll have to see about that. In general, these are all really good. They give you around 100 plus Spirit with some trade-offs. Now then we have the obvious ones, which is Body Armor and Amulet. You can obviously get a roll right there. So for example, on a Body Armor right here, you can get around 60 Spirit up to max, and then up to 50 max on a Amulet, with maybe even 15 in the implicit. And then if you're really getting desperate, you also have Alpha's Howl, which presence radius is double, but it does give you a whopping 100 Spirit and fixes your core res. It has no energy shield, so you can't use it with Eldritch Battery whatsoever. No mana stack opportunities, no energy shield, no nothing. So that is a little bit rough. And in general, from what I was looking at yesterday, I think the sweet spot is somewhere in between 4 to 6 totems. Everything after that just seems complete overkill for the opportunity cost that it presents. Now, another important one for this equation might be, you might be wondering, oh, we're going to have so much Spirit that we have to reserve. Where do we fit in Archmage? Where do we fit some of these other cool auras in? Well, other than Archmage, most of the auras are actually quite dispensable, especially because totems don't trigger meta skills. So it's mostly around Archmage. And here's the question. Will we actually get a free Archmage from this new Amulet base? They did show this off with Eternal Rage, which is a 100 Spirit reservation just like Archmage, and has -1 prefix and -1 suffix allowed. The question is, will this be possible? He did say in the video that it is Spirit reserving skills. He didn't just say Eternal Rage, so here's hoping. And on top of that, the question is, how easy is it to craft? If you guys know Simplex amulets from Path of Exile 1, you know that just because something has less modifiers doesn't mean it's easier to craft. It can actually swallow modifiers and whatnot. I think that won't be the case in Puri 2 though, and if that is not the case, crafting 4 perfect modifiers is a lot easier than crafting 6 good ones. So potentially with fracturing, depending on how hard it is to get this base, this could be a quite easy slam dunk. But let's go over Ascendancy Choices. I'll first shout out the Oracle, which does not have any Spirit per se, but the inevitable crit node did not get nerfed, so it's still very strong. You have some okay defensive nodes. You possibly can do something with Harmony Within. which saves you a lot of points on the passive tree, and you can, as always, do walk the paths not taken. The biggest thing about this Ascendancy, though, is that you are in the right place on the passive tree. You're right here at Ancestral Bond, and you're down here at the Totem nodes, and there is a ton of Totem placement speed here, which is, as always, an absolute premium modifier on Totem builds. And if you are on the right side of the tree, it's kind of rough. Then we have the Shaman, which does start off strong with Sacred Flow, but come endgame, you really want to be stun immune, you want to be freeze immune, you want to have those charms. They actually do something. And then in endgame, you have some absolutely ridiculous, unique charms. So at that point, Sacred Flow is kind of useless, but it is nice that you can always respec between Shaman and Oracle. So the second thing is the whole rage mechanic here just doesn't really fit all that well. It's not that much damage. You have Reactive Growth and Avatar of Evolution, which is very good defensively, but otherwise I think Shaman is more of an early game solution to Spirit. Then we have Invoker, which is the most hipster and interesting way. As I already pointed out, Soul Springs Eternal will reduce the cost. With this and the node right here, Efficient Inscriptions, you can get your totem cost down to 44 per totem in terms of Spirit. And then you can also grab Lead Me Through Grace, and then you can completely ignore Spirit everywhere else. This one is going to be strong if and only if you can get your hands on one of these amulets, because if you can do that, then you will be able to just straight up reserve 5 totems or so for free. No need for anything else Spirit-wise. No modifiers, no scepter, no nothing. However, the problem is after you took these 2 nodes, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, left on this Ascendancy. Meditate, probably not going to be good because you're going to be mana based and you're going to take Eldritch Battery because it's just too damn good, especially because remember, we don't pay any costs. So this double mana cost doesn't do anything for our spell totem. And also, once we put something down, the totems just shoot away and they don't consume any mana anyways. So that doesn't work. Protect Me from Harm is just not really good with what we want to do. Unbound Avatar doesn't even work with totem hits. If they apply ailments, you don't get the stacks. And then what we have left is Sunder My Enemies, which is completely worthless. And then we have 10% as extra, 10% as extra, which, as you can see in this POB, gives me like 3% more damage or so. Obviously, these numbers are made up, just some stuff I threw together real quick. And yeah. I don't know what else to say. This Ascendancy is very weird because these 2 Ascendancies are extremely strong, and after that, it's just bunch of nothing. And at the end here, I have some Witch Ascendancies. The first one being the Infernalist, which does give you quite a bit of Spirit from Baidat's Will right here. This does open up a avenue for low life where you could go for stuff like Pain Attunement. You could go Demon Mommy and get a little bit faster with her dodge roll. All interesting. I'm not 100% sure that's actually going to be good. Another one that might be sleeper broken though is Blood Mage. So Blood Mage does add a life cost right here, and usually in the past we've seen that you just spam skills that cost a ton of life and then you get it back with Leech, which was nerfed. But what if you used it without any cost on totems? Because once again, Ancestral Bond just says no cost. It does not say no mana cost. It says no cost. So with that in mind, that should also include life cost, meaning anything you gain from stuff like Wrathpith, if you actually see this as a downside, which might be a lot of the new age Blood Mage builds. And what is left is a life stacker with 4 to 5k life. You go Crimson Power, you go Grasping Wounds, which is really strong defensively, and then you just get 15 base crit and some crit multi. In this case, it would be around about 100 crit multi with 5k life. Very, very strong package and might actually end up being better than Archmage, but we'll have to see. And it is hidden behind you getting a Wrathpith Globe. And another thing I want to mention here at the end, because a lot of people do not know this, it's the same as in PoE1. Headhunter actually does work with totems. Usually on kill effects don't work with totems because they're not you in terms of buffs, but on Headhunter, it is an exception. I farmed this in Temple last patch, and the Headhunter buffs work perfectly. So yeah, just for people who are thinking about juicing and thinking about, oh, once I get a Headhunter, I can't use it anymore, you can. Now, as for which skills to use, it is hard to say, but my personal favorite when I tried it out last patch was Spark. It is just too comfy. Spark totems clear the whole screen. It also shoots ahead of you, which is often a problem because totems do not start firing until there's enemies nearby. With enough projectile speed, it will already clear the next pack as well. It is just absolutely beautiful. You can check out my video from last patch, which is going to look a lot worse than what we're going to get this patch. The second skill that was surprisingly strong was Frostbolt. Now, at first glance, this skill doesn't seem that impressive simply because most of its damage is in the explosion, and you can't really force the explosion unless you explode against the wall because it pierces all targets. It just doesn't explode. However, with some tech from the Snake Pit ring, we can make it so projectiles cannot pierce, and they also fork. So you now explode with the enemy, you get the good part of Frostbolt, you get the explosion and the initial projectile damage combined, and then you also get forks after. This skill was surprisingly strong and a little bit better in the single target department than Spark, but it had like way less clear, so it's a little bit rough. Talking about way less clear, we can talk about Bone Storm right here. Bone Storm is technically really strong because of how it works with totems. They will actually charge up everything and then release at 20, which makes it a lot less awkward. However, it has issues. Mainly the fact that you want to spend power charges to empower it, but you don't because your Ancestral Bond most likely. So you would have to run a version that, for example, use Vol's Protector to generate charges yourself. And at that point, we're talking about a 2-button build, which is not what interests me. What interests me is the 1-button playstyle. And another interesting one is Bone Cage, but it is a little bit awkward because you can see this in the picture right here. If the totem targets, it will make the Bone Cage around the target and it will only hit if they move, which the idea usually behind Bone Cage is to use it with Spell Cascade and then overlap it and they explode themselves. But you cannot do that because totems are remote skills and they cannot be used with Spell Cascade. But yeah, these are just my first thoughts. If you want to see a very bare bones version from last patch where spell totems were pretty cucked, let's put it that way, I still made it work somehow in a fresh league, so you can check that out. Until then, I will be exploring this archetype a little bit more and over on twitch.tv/Palsteron and see what I can come up with. We're gonna find an Ascendancy to play and then I'll put out a guide and give you guys a little bit of guidance. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys are on the spell totem train. If you are, then there you go. And with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.